Hello, friends. Today we are dealing with the introduction to the public international law. So, public international law is a one of the oldest subjects and which deals with the how the countries would have to interact in between themselves. You know, world is a interdependent world. Something, a famine, a floods, a earthquake, now we are undergoing the disaster of COVID-19 that have the ramifications in around the world. One part of the world is suffered by some sort of disaster that would have the effect on the other part of the world. So we can say that world not only became a global village but also it is a interdependent village, because after 1990s, when the LPG policies, liberalization, globalization and privatization policies have come out, the world became a global village. So the subject of public international law is a subject which deals with the how the nations can interact with the other nations. So the interaction is a compulsory process, a compulsory element. Without that we cannot survive in the world. As you know that if you go to the some definitions, before to that I would like to stress that the public international law having the two important elements. One is the modern public international law, other is the ordinary customary public international law. So the public international law, which is developed after 1945, after evolution of the United Nations organization, that is called as a modern public international law, and the old or say the customary public international is a law which was there till 1945, because the advent of the United Nations organization in 1945, 24th of October, has resulted tremendous impact upon the all throughout the world in all the countries. And you know, as I told you, that public international law is not a recent origin. It is there since the 17th century. The first time the Jeremy Bentham in 1780, he termed it as a public international law. But if you go to historical perspectives are concerned, in India, that was called as a Bharat. At that time, we have the Ramayana, the great epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata. There also, we could see the instances of the public international law. Ramayana war, Mahabharata war, which is fought for some days. Specifically, the Mahabharata war was fought for 18 days at the Kurukshetra. There certain principles have been laid down between the Rama and Ravana in the other side. In the Mahabharata, the Kurukshetra, when the war took place for 18 days, certain principles were laid that only war should be in between the combatants, not in between the non-combatants. And also, innocent people should not suffer because of the outbreak of war. So these are some of the instances we could find. Even if you go to the Mahabharata period or even in Ramayana period, Hanuman, who goes to the Ravana's courtship, at that time Vibhishana says that he should not be punished because he had a messenger of the Rama, Lord Rama. He should be exempted. So that be reflecting the diplomatic immunities. Now what we call it as now diplomatic immunities. And during time of Kurukshetra also, the number of such instances were there. In courtships of Duryodhana, when the Krishna came for mediation, he is not given any sort of punishment. He was accorded a golden reception and he was heard, but Duryodhana did not agree the negotiations between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Ultimately, war has broken down. So, public international law, though for Western thinkers, it is it was a virgin, date back to 17th century, but us, for India, Indian historical perspectives are concerned, it is one of the oldest principles which are there since time immemorial. So we will leave alone that. Now we come to a subject that is a public international. Then I would explain the definition of the public international law, meaning and definition. As I told you that public international law is a public and international law. It is applicable to everybody, every nation, irrespective of the size, power, economic, social power, defense power. It is immaterial. Every country is equal. That be called as a doctrine of equality of states that is there in the public international law. We will discuss later on. But here, public international law is basically, simply we can say that a law which is guides how relationship should be maintained between the one nation to the other nation. That is the called as a public international law. The major exponents of the public international law like Hall, Wagner, Hughes, Bentham. So majority of them has stated that public international law is nothing but law which binds in between the nations in their intercourse with each other. That is the meaning of the public international law. But when the Oppenheim, the another famous jurist of this 9th century, he gave very tremendous definition of the public international law. As per his words, I quote here that public international law means the law of nations or international law is the name for the body of customary or conventional rules which are considered legally binding by the civilized states in their intercourse with each other. So he added two important aspects. One is a customary principles and also conventional principles. The principles which legally binds, it definitely binds upon all the nations. And he added the word called civilized states. So the word civilized states is nowadays is not considered because it is a colonial word where public international law, the Western philosophers, they have thought that civilization is there only in their countries, whereas the Oriental countries like India, China, Japan, Thailand, they could not have the civilization. In Africa also. But that is a concept became a myth concept. Now it is not accepted. So the Oppenheim definition, though it is a definition, is a far-reaching definition, but it has certain shortcomings are there. But basically we have to say that public international law is a law which binds between the nations, in between the nations, and also how they have to interact, how they have to intercourse with each other. That we called as a public international principles. Then there are number of definitions are there. I had told you J.J. Bradley definition, Hackworth definition, and in some important cases like the Kuhn versus Keon case, Lord Coleridge, Chief Justice, he also given a very remarkable definition. He stated that it is nothing but usages, how a nations they can interact. That usages be called as a public international law. And also like the other jurists like Hall, Kelson. So there are many jurists who gave very lengthy definitions with regard to public international law. And in the recent past, there is another important definition have come out, that is by J.G. Stark. He gave very lengthy definition, but it is a very comprehensive definition. All the aspects pertaining to the nations have been incorporated or enumerated in this definition. So we can say that, so public international, as per the J.G. Stark, he quoted that public international law is a law which is composed for its greater part of the principles and rules of conduct which states feel themselves bound to observe and therefore do customarily observe in their relations with each other and includes. So he stated that the states have to bound to observe. It is their duty to observe the principles of public international law. They cannot deny that they won't observe, because when you are a country in a committee of nations, you should have to follow certain principles. So that is, and he goes on to say, Stark goes on to state that the rules of law relating to the functioning of international institutions or organizations, their relation with each other and their relations with states and individuals. So he stated he is not confined to the principles of public international law in between the states. He has expanded the meaning of the public international law. He stated that states and international institutions, because I just told you that after 1945, when the advent of the United Nations organization has resulted into coming out of number of international institutions throughout the world, UNESCO, WHO, UNICEF, International Labour Organization, ICAO, like that number of institutions have come out. So how they have to interact with the states and how they have to interact within themselves, how institutions can interact with themselves, that also be part of the public international law as per the opinion of the J.G. Stark. And he goes on to states that public international law also includes certain rules of law relating to the individuals and non-state entities so far as the rights or duties of such individuals are concern of the institutional community. So there is another twist is there in this definition, that he is not only included the states and also institutions, international institutions. He has stated that states and non-state entities. So what are those non-state entities? So non-state entities are those entities which are not owned by the governments, which are private entities, non-governmental organizations. You know, there are a number of non-governmental organizations are working in different fields, like in the field of human rights, we have the Amnesty International, World Watch, and Oxfam, Doctors Without Borders, Medicina Sans Frontiers. So like that, non-state entities are there. Many non-state entities are there. How they can interact with the other states? For that, they have to follow the principles of international law. States states, and in between the states are states, in between the institutions, international institutions, and international institutions to the non-state entities. So all have to follow the principles of the public international law, then that will be called as a public international law. So as you know that there are two kinds of international laws are there. One is a public international law, other is the private international law. So as I told you, public international law is a law in between the states, which governs in between the states for their intercourse, for their conduct, for acts. But what is meant by the private international law? So private international law is a law in between the private parties. Private parties means in between the individuals. Individuals means, you know, we have after the globalization, people have started migrating for the greener pastures to the different parts of the globe. And suppose in a case, X marries a girl here in India, and he goes outside of the world, outside of the country, he resides in England. Then they got some differences, they want to file a divorce. Then which law they have to file a divorce? Whether as per the Indian law, as per the English law, the question comes. Then the question comes with regard to succession, with regard to inheritance, because the laws are not universal. Laws are lexifoci laws. Lexifoci laws means within territory, territorial laws. Then whatever happen here, we have to file here. So that particular law is applicable. Then lexifoci laws are there in different parts, because our laws are applicable to within our territory. If we go beyond the territory, our laws are not applicable. Then the question of conflict of law comes, that we call as a conflict of law, fighting between the laws. In such scenario, in such matters, that matters will be there dealt by the private international law. So private international law deals with the matters pertaining to the marriage, succession, inheritance, divorce, matrimonial matters, like that. Such matters have been there in that. And with this, I can say that public international law became a very widespread and very important subject in the field of law. Thank you.